Because of the way the universe is created, we each of us live in two worlds at the same time. We have to live in the outer life of our own bodies and the inner life of our own souls.
Hello and welcome to Living the Inner Life. I'm your host, Chris Sheridan, and I want you to join with me on a journey into our inner lives, our thoughts, feelings, emotions, all the tools of consciousness that we can use to improve our total experience with life, both inner and outer. Now, today I want to share with you a little teeny book. It's not even a book, it's a booklet by a guy called Emmet Fox. It's from the 1930s. He was active in the 20s, about 100 years ago. Mainly in New York. He was involved with the Fillmores and the Unity movement, the Unity Church. And he gave sold-out lectures. He was very popular in his day, again, mostly in the 30s and the 40s. One of his early books, called The Sermon on the Mount, which is a very mystical interpretation of some of the Christian scriptures. Mystical meaning what it means to you. Okay, not just something out there or someone a long time ago to believe in, but what is it right now? Most religions have a mystical branch. With Judaism, it's Kabbalah. With Islam, it would be the Sufis and the dervishes. Christianity, sometimes it's the Gnostics, Gnosis, where we get knowing from. And I think Fox and others of the 20th century were just generally a mystical. That is, again, it's first person. It's how Scripture or how God or how any of these parables or texts work in your life with you very practically. It has to be here and now, not somewhere else at some other time. Okay, so that's just a little rundown on mysticism. And Emmet Fox, his book, Sermon on the Mount, was very influential for the beginning of the Alcoholics Anonymous movement with Bill W. As a matter of fact, before the big book of AA came out, I think it was 1934, they used Emmet Fox's Sermon on the Mount, and he had a direct connection to Bill W. through his secretary. So this is a very deeply rooted set of instructions that go back to self-help. Okay, but it's also self-help that involves a higher power. Okay, God, if you will. Or if not, the higher nature, the part of yourself, or universal wisdom. Okay, even the most devout atheist and strict material empirical scientist would have to agree that at least there is some mystery. There is something about the universe, the physical sciences that goes beyond our understanding, that there is wisdom. We may not understand it yet, and someday we might get closer and closer. Of course, every time you remove a veil, there's another one right behind it. But for now, regardless of your beliefs, have some belief in something, or at least an open-mindedness, okay, that there may be other forces, other powers, other ways of knowing, because if you're not really doing that, then you're not really involved with the inner life, all right? Just stick to the outer world if that's where it is. But I think if you're here now and you've listened this far, you're probably interested in the inner life, perhaps as much as I am. So to get to Emmet Fox and this little booklet called The Golden Key, okay? He called it a practical guide for getting out of trouble, all right? And he said it was 5 pages, but if he could have reduced it down to 5 lines, he would have. It's a very simple, very powerful, and kind of deceivingly effective method or technique of approaching the world, approaching yourself, anything that you have trouble with in your life, like personally, if it's health or behavior or your attitude, all these things that are within you. If you want to improve that, if you want to change that, if you feel you're in trouble with yourself, this is a practical way of getting through that. It also works incredibly effectively on other people, relationships, people in our lives, whether it's somebody at work, a boss perhaps, or your spouse or significant other. It could be family members. It could just be the future that you may be concerned with. And he boiled it down to what he called the golden key. All right, so I want you to visualize an actual golden key. It could be any kind of key you wish, pick one, and kind of stick with that. And since it's golden, make it a good key. Maybe a skeleton key, maybe an ornate 19th century Victorian house key or something like that. Whatever you will. Maybe your mailbox key, who knows? All right, but a golden key. So make it a good one, a good key. And this is the key. The key is the key. So what he says is to visualize this golden key between you and whatever the problem is. If it's your own bad attitude that you want to help correct, then you put that key in between you and your attitude. If it's another person that you're having difficulty with, or perhaps a person that you want to change. And sometimes when we want to change other people, not recommended, but I think it comes from a good place. All right, we might see somebody in trouble or somebody who really could use some help. Of course, people have to want to receive help in order to get it, and they have to want to change to be able to change. And if you've ever tried to work on people, it's very hard to convince them to directly get them to change what it is they're doing or how it is they're going about something. All right. So what this golden key is, it's kind of a barrier, but it's also like a solution. Think of it as a key because it's a key and it'll open a door. Okay. If there's something locked or blocked, this is the key. But the real point about the golden key is that you're using this as a mediator, as actually even more than a mediator. You're deferring and referring to this golden key, because if it represents higher power or God, as Emmet Fox would say, then that's where you want your energy and your thoughts to go, not on the trouble, not on the problem. Okay, you probably already know what the trouble is. You already know what the problem is. In fact, it's probably something you've had trouble with for a while. All right, so you don't have to stay there. You've already been there. You don't focus on the problem. It's like focusing on an illness. We'll start with that. We'll start with a physical ailment or illness or something you may be dealing with. So instead of focusing on your symptoms and how bad you feel, you already know that, okay? You already have some symptomatic issue going on in your life. And what you do instead is you focus on the golden key. And if the golden key unlocks mysteries, leads towards solution, is a higher power, a God power, well, then you're thinking of those things. And those things are generally the opposite of whatever your problem is, okay? So if you're thinking of God, if you're thinking of higher power, better nature, universal wisdom, it wouldn't be God if it wasn't good, okay? It wouldn't be universal wisdom or the power of the infinite if it didn't work, if it wasn't good, if it wasn't effective, if it wasn't harmonious. Okay, a lot of our troubles, a lot of our problems that we face are from being out of harmony with our bodies or our soul, our inner self, out of harmony with each other, our environment, the world in which we live. I think we've become so far removed from many of those things with distractions, with civilization. It's a double-edged sword. Yes, it's improved our lives dramatically by having, modern conveniences and, air conditioning and heating and transportation, all these things. They cause their own problems, but they have definitely advanced and progressed civilization and society forward. But in doing so, especially now with technology, we've removed ourselves. We want to take a pill or something every time we get a symptom. We want to just, quit a job if we can't seem to make it work, which you may want to do, but without trying to adapt or improve ourselves, or to take our health into our own hands and our own matter and do what we can on our own. Yes, you want to have doctors and all these things as well, but there's a lot we can do ourselves, all right? So this golden key is a way of, think of it as, phoning a friend, or if you know somebody who's really good at fixing something and you have something that's not operating correctly, you would go, Jim, he knows, he can fix anything. He fixed my lawnmower, and now my toaster won't work. I bet you he knows how to fix it. If you've already tried and you can't seem to do it. Okay? So why wouldn't you refer to an expert, somebody who's demonstrated that they're able to assist you in matters, whether it's an appliance, or some other issue that somebody is good at fixing. Somebody wiser, at least in that area, somebody more skilled, and who is just geared towards solving these problems or fixing these broken things. So this golden key is that wise friend, or that mechanic, if you will, or this person that has resources, wisdom, strength, maybe a perspective, a way of looking at things. Whatever it is, it's not you. Whoever it is somebody else. Okay? And I'm sure you've already tried. If you get to this point where you have to bring up a golden key, actually it'd be better to do it earlier if you can. But generally, we've tried this, we've tried that, we tried something else. And if all that stuff doesn't work, you can try golden keying something. Fox uses it as a verb even. Well, I'm going to golden key Sally because, we're having trouble in our relationships. And, we tried talking, we just go into argument. And I think she needs to do this and she thinks I need to do that. So wait a minute. Instead of me meddling anymore, I'm just going to golden key her. Okay, slap that golden key right on Sally and at least put the key in between you and her, okay? And then you focus on that. So the key being this infinite wisdom, okay, that makes things harmonious. It solves problems. It shelters from storms. It does all these things, all wise, all knowing, all being able to provide always what is needed, knowing more than you do, and just knowing differently, okay? So put your focus, put your attention on that, because it's either going to be that or you're going to be focusing on the problem, or the problem that you think the other person has, or your own problem that could be something financial, okay? Say you're needing to raise a couple $1,000s for an unexpected bill, and it's very important that you do it. You're not in a very good financial position to take that on. Okay, and you may try this, you may try that, you may call a couple people, you could try the bank loan, and can't seem to get that to work, then golden key it, all right? It doesn't mean you forget about your problem. Okay, it doesn't mean you necessarily give up. What you're doing is you're giving up your control or your determination to solve it on your own. And there's a saying, lean not upon your own understanding. Okay, because there's only so much we can do. There's only so much we know. Okay, so that's where this golden key comes in. Think of the golden key. Think of, you can think about the person or the problem in general, but you're sending it to the golden key. You're saying, I give to you. How can you help? All right. You are coming in between me and this problem as an intermediary, intercessor, intervention, if you will. You can use all these terms. But you're really asking for this assistance. And what it does is changes your attitude and your energy vibration, okay, without getting too woo-woo. It's true. If you think negative things or you think negatively about a thing a lot, constantly, consistently, you're probably going to get more of the same. You're going to find more negativity. You'll probably receive more negativity. And if you have more of a peaceful, more helpful, more harmonious attitude, well, you'll probably see more peace and harmony in yourself and around you and in other people. And you will have a better outcome, generally speaking, okay? Because just harping on the problem doesn't really solve it. You have to know that there's a problem. You have to accept that this problem exists, okay? And you have to maybe admit at some point that I'm not able to really solve this, or I haven't been able to solve this problem yet, or help this troubled person. So you bring in this extra help, and you sit down, you're thinking about the problem, thinking about the person, what needs to be changed, especially what isn't there, if it's a lack, if you need, like I was saying earlier about some extra money or some healing. If you're focused on the problem, you're really focusing on what you don't have. You're focusing on what's wrong, what's missing, what hurts, what's frustrating, aggravating, infuriating, whatever this thing is. Okay, and instead you're focusing on the golden key. Problem doesn't go away, but your thought stream moves from problem to solution. Okay, now it's a little bit of a leap. Okay, you have to use your imagination. I often think of a glowing key, and it's radiant. I don't know if it has its own light source or it reflects from another source. But gold is such a very reflective material. It doesn't tarnish. It's a valuable metal. And I see it usually like just maybe turning a little bit. There's a little bit of motion to it. I don't know why. That's the image that I come up with when I decide to golden key something or someone or myself. I think what, for me, that does is it makes it, with this radiance and a little bit of movement, it makes it more alive and not just a cold piece of gold, right? This piece of metal that doesn't really go anywhere or do anything. I see it more as a, almost breathing, that it's vibing with maybe electrical energy or some kind of, spiritual energy, all right? This golden key. And when I bring up this golden key, I can kind of see just a little bit behind it on the other side, the person or this part of me that I find troubling. But the key is bright and radiant enough that it really disappears the problem thing into the background to where I don't really see it anymore. This is just my method. You can try whatever you want. But think of a key, a golden key. All right? Isn't that what you want? Don't you want a key to unlock, this problem, this block, this door that seems to be shut, and you want it open? You want a free flow of energy, So this key is the key. It's an actual key, actual imaginary key, but the key being what is good. So if you're focusing on the one, the beautiful, the good, the God, the Tao, perhaps your Buddha nature, or the harmony of the universe. If you're a scientist or an astronomer, you can look at the harmony of the spheres, all the planets rotating and revolving and interacting, and gravitational forces. There's amazing beauty, amazing mystery in space, in nature here on Earth. All right? I know we have a lot of explanations for physical sciences and things that happen, but it's still constantly amazing and beautiful what nature can do, all on its own, without you or me getting in the way. As a matter of fact, that's really the problem, is when we meddle with some of these things. But to focus on that key, like the forces of nature, where the beauty of the solar system, okay, or the love of God, or the goodness in people, all that is good, all that is harmonious, all that is strong and knowing and is able to provide the answer. So what you're doing is you're really tuning your mind. your consciousness and focusing on the good stuff, things that are good. And you don't have to outline, okay, I'm thinking good stuff now. I'm looking at this key and I'm really trying to get, okay, now what do I do? How do I fix Jim? Or how do I, solve the problem of Sally or myself or whatever this is? Okay? You may not see all the steps. It may not come as an answer like, aha, this is what I have to do. I have to do that. It may be a general, gradual sense of solution. Okay? But if you're focusing on the problem, you're not focusing on the solution. And by focusing on the golden key, you're focusing on what's the best possible outcome. Okay, what's the highest order of solution? What is the best way this can be resolved? Okay, it may not be something you ever thought of. Okay, and sometimes if you just think good thoughts, and if it's a person in your life who is either troubled within their own soul, or you have a troubling connection with, okay, if you're focusing on the problem, that's going to make more. More makes more. So by focusing on this solutional power, let's call it that, this solutional power, this universal medicine, almost like the Philosopher's Stone of alchemy, all right, that can work on anything, this elixir of life, this golden key. And you golden key your problem. If you're the problem, then it's that part of you. And it gets you a little bit of distance, and you're focusing on good energy. You're thinking and meditating and visualizing on harmony, on peace, reconciliation, harmony, anything and everything that works perfect in the universe. Okay? And that energy, I swear this works. It sounds really weird, but give it a try. Give the golden key a try. Try it on yourself. Think of one thing about yourself that you're having trouble with, all right? And what you can do, and what you've tried to do to solve it, and let it go. Say, I'm not going to work on this. I'm not going to work on this part of me at the moment. I'm going to focus on the golden key that's in between me and this problem. Okay, and it's going to help me get through because I'm going to be thinking good things. Abundant, harmonizing, peaceful, compassionate, powerful, strong, all those things. All these great universal forces and energies, and the power of God, if that resonates with you, is in this golden key. It's not the golden key itself, it's what it represents. But it moves your consciousness and your thoughts and your attitude towards a much better place. And isn't that the style of the solution? If you want to solve something that's frustrating, well, by adding more frustration to it isn't going to lead towards a solution. If this thing is frustrating and you're focusing on, okay, what's not frustrating? What's good? What's harmonious? Okay, what is working perfectly? What is successful? Okay, then you're tuned into that kind of an attitude because that's where the solution is. The solution is going to be something that will lead towards harmonious and peaceful and reconcilable terms. Okay, and that's how you're going to focus your energy and direct your thoughts on this imaginary golden key and give the solution to this much higher power that knows more than you know that you know, and you'll find the solution. It'll come to you in a dream. It'll come to you when you're not thinking of it. It may just come gradually, where day by day this issue gets less and less frustrating, becomes easier and easier to get through this difficult thing or this trouble or whatever it is that you need to give this golden key treatment to. So that's Emmet Fox. You can look him up. I'm sure the golden key is online. It's probably too small to be published because it's a very, very small booklet. But it's a great, powerful device, and you can use it instantly. road rage. Okay, well, there's a golden key on that car. All right, I don't like the way the driver's driving. All right, try it on small things first, move it towards big things. It works the same way. All right, so that's Emmet Fox and the Golden Key, and we'll see you next time here on Living the Inner Life.